Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Saltworks podcast. It is season 4. I cannot believe that. And yet here we are. We are so excited. If you are new here, we're so glad to have you. We like to keep things real here and honest and vulnerable. And so today that's what we're going to be doing. We don't have this great production to start season 4, but honestly, we felt like that was in step with what we really care about and what we believe in the Saltworks. And so today we're honestly sharing with you where we kind of are and what we've processed through this summer, sort of piggybacking off of the last episode of season 3. So today we have your favorite co-host, Lindsay Stagg, who is actually getting to join us for every episode this season. I can't wait, all the good things that she brings to the table. I know you're excited too. So today, Lindsay and I are kicking off season 4, diving into topics like burnout and what that looks for us physically and spiritually and emotionally, what's true, what feels true, but maybe isn't. And also talking about intentionality. We unfortunately sign off with some hard homework that I'm still wrestling with myself, but I can't wait to hear from y'all. And I just want to say, for anything going forward in the season, we'd love to hear from you. So don't hesitate to reach out, send us an email, send us a DM. We love to hear those stories on and off the Saltworks. So without further ado, I want to share with you this conversation with Lindsay. Well, Lindsay, it's not uncommon for you to be on the show.
Yeah.
But what is new is that you're on the show every week now.
Yeah.
And listeners don't necessarily know that. If they didn't see a social media post or whatever, then they might have missed that their favorite co-host is now posting every week.
Yes.
So, how do you feel about that?
We're just going to roll with it, I guess. I mean, we laughed because, there's plenty of times I'm sitting in the corner and
Yes.
like, what? I was about to ask a question and I'm not on camera, so let me not say anything right now. So I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, you just need to mic you up. Well, and like for anyone listening, it's going to be, obviously, we're going to dive into topics like we are today to kick off season 4, which is wild.
I know.
But also when we have guests on, you'll still be co-hosting and we'll still have the same format that everyone's used to.
Yeah.
Go through someone's stories. So none of that is changing, but we get to have extra wisdom and
I don't know about that.
So,
extra comments maybe.
I'm excited about that. I have a comment about that. Okay, so when we were talking about what it is that we wanted to dive into in this episode, which I almost feel like this is like a continuation of the season finale.
I know.
Season 3, which in some ways feels like, is that exciting? Is that new? Is that season 4, epic start? But honestly, it's where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want to speak for you too, but I feel like that just seemed the most honest and real.
Yeah.
And I don't think it is exactly the same, but it's similar. So yeah. Anyways, if anyone hasn't listened to season finale, you can go pick up there. But
yes.
But yeah, so the first thing that really I have really set in for months now is the topic of burnout.
Yeah.
And I wrestled with that this morning, honestly, because I don't ever want where my energy is and what I speak about and even what I read about in my own time even to be more about worldly thoughts and pursuits and views than the Lord's.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we can't oversimplify and over spiritualize things and say we don't have these worldly experiences. We don't have these physical experiences. And so I do want to pepper that with, I understand sometimes that can seem, because I can feel that way. Okay, I want to handle this with care. And also we've talked plenty of times on the podcast before about how we are spiritual and we are physical. And so I feel like burnout is one of those things that really marries those two for me, or it has in this season. So hopefully I can help do that process. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I think everybody, that's a topic everyone can relate to at some point. Everybody reaches a point where it just feels like I am so mentally, physically, all the things, just exhausted for 1,000 different reasons. I mean, there's tons of reasons why we probably, and can, dive into some of that, like why we end up there or how we end up there. But I guess I don't really know like what all where your thoughts went, but I guess my first question would be, what do you think? I wouldn't say like ultimately leads to burnout, but I guess maybe for you and your experience, like what do you feel like has led to that feeling of burnout?
Yeah. Well, okay. So I will give this backstory, and I want to be clear that I'm not complaining because like these are all good things.
Oh yeah.
And I have a piece on that too. But at the same time, it was a lot of things. So going into the spring, Andrew and I started building a house, which is, we're so excited. I do have, like our contractor has an interior designer, and so she's phenomenal and keeps me like organized, but I really like to pick everything. So I'm doing really most all of that. And so, that's a lot. It's something I enjoy, and it's something that I want to do because it could be the last house I live in. I just never know. And so I really want to make all those decisions with care and within, what's wise with stewardship, with finances and functionality for our family. And so all of those things. And so I'm looking at all these angles, and that's a lot to think through. And it's every single little piece of the inside, outside, everything. And obviously Andrew is a huge help, but he really kind of likes what I like. And so that's been a lot. And that was at the same time as a book launch.
Yeah.
And there were multiple times that I looked at you and said, we are so dumb. But honestly, it was just the Lord's, it was the Lord's plan because I had been writing that book for over 5 years, pretty much. And so, we talked plenty last season if anybody wanted to hear the story about how it came about, that it was getting published. But the miraculous way that came about is something that I couldn't have orchestrated had I tried.
Right.
And so the timing of it, everything I know was in his plan and will. And honestly, the same thing with the house, because we worked on these house plans for about 5 years and changed a lot and tweaked a lot and laid them aside and looked at houses and that sort of thing, just with the market changing and all of that, job changes and everything in between. And so those doors opened really fast, like really faster than we really meant to walk through those. And so it was crazy that all of that was coinciding. And then, and so like for the book launch, I think I had no idea really what that looked like for people before I was looking into writing and publishing. And so like, not only is it all the marketing and the prep and that sort of stuff, but it's also being on other people's podcasts and radio shows. So for, I don't know, 2 to 3 months, I was doing an interview, like 1 to 3 interviews a week, plus our podcast and plus speaking engagements. And so just a whole lot of prep, a whole lot of studying. Really enjoyed getting to talk about the things that the Lord had laid on my heart for moms and women, and getting to do that. But it does just take its toll on you mentally and physically. I would say just having to always be on, it's nerve wracking to be on shows with, I would say, especially your first book, when you don't know what to expect, you do feel new to the scene. Your name's not really known. And so you just feel like you've got to be really clear and concise and a good communicator. And so like a lot hangs on, if this interview is 15 minutes, can I say what I need to say and glorify you in those 15 minutes well? And so a lot with that. And that doesn't get into setting up all the technical stuff.
Right.
This isn't working today and I'm here by myself and I've got to sign on to this live show at 7:42, and it's just, so there was just like a lot of, I would say high stress, but I don't mean stressful in a
Yeah.
in a negative sense, but a lot of details and a lot of like having to be on top of tasks, different time zones. And so sometimes I would be like, oh my goodness, I got that time wrong. And, you know, some things like that. So all of that was a lot.
Yeah.
And on top of, you know, we need this today for the house or whatever.
Right.
There was a day where we were needing to do something for the house today, and we were recording a podcast here, and I was treating our whole family for lice. And that's just what I call Monday.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so it was quite a bit. And then, just honestly, like, as much as it sounds like this is just and this too on the side, one of the most stressful things for us as a family at the time was the lack of family time that we had. And then the emphasis on extracurriculars and homework and don't miss this performance and this awards ceremony. You know, when you have three around the same age, everybody needs this color t-shirt, or, you know, this one needs that one doesn't. And, you know, it's just a lot to coordinate. And so it was just a lot of mental fatigue that I started to feel. So burnout has become like a term that people use in the workforce. Because it's like functioning at a too high capacity for too long, basically. And so in that way, that is like the worldly definition. But like I have become grateful for it, because like as I've looked it up and sat in it and gone, what is going on with me? Because I can explain like the physical sensation to you in a minute, but like I've been like, oh, you created our bodies to do this when we are running too fast, too long, you know, like you've created, you meant for us to have rest, and you meant for us to depend on you. And, and I do definitely think there's many times an aspect of, depending on yourself or feeling like I have to be on. And, it wasn't that I didn't trust them through those seasons, or through those, things, because I really did. And I prayed intentionally about that often. I put in my notes, and this was like one of the things I learned from burnout is like, part of it was a necessary season. I mean, all those things had to be done. And I'm grateful for all those things, and the Lord, orchestrated all of it. And I'm so grateful if He did give me the capacity to do it. And part of burnout points to a necessary change. And so I feel like that's where we got as a family, and for me personally. So like the way that I'll describe the way burnout felt for me, and I want to say too, like we're talking specifically on this, but for somebody listening, it could, maybe you're thinking, well, I feel depressed, or I feel stressed out, or I'm having anxiety from these things that I feel like are weighing, you know, on me, that I have in my responsibilities to handle, whatever that looks like. A lot of these things are applicable to different categories. But for me, burnout really showed up, I would say, not for the first time, but like in the most clear time, when we went to the beach. So you were already going to the beach. Andrew and I were supposed to go, but our plans fell through, and Andrew found out that you had invited me, and I wasn't going to tell him, because I knew he'd be like, go. But with everything we had going on, that just did not seem like something I should do. And I knew he'd tell me to, so I didn't even tell him that's what I did. But somehow it came up literally the night before you left. And he was like, you need to go. You're going. Like, and it was one of those things that like, it did feel crazy, but I was like, okay, like, I guess I'm going to go and whatever. And so we went, and like, it was a great trip. Like we had great conversation. We hung out, we talked, we read, we went out to eat, like whatever. But how many times did I say like, I'm sorry, I'm not fun. Like, I just,
which I'm like, you know, hello, it's me. I don't care.
like
no expectation over here.
It was the weirdest thing, because we've all been on trips before, or like at a dinner or something where you're like, this just feels off. Like maybe you don't connect with the person you're with, or maybe you know, this just isn't your scene or whatever. And but this was something that I've never really experienced. And I was like, I don't feel depressed, and I don't feel sad. And I know this is a comfortable place.
Yeah.
But it was like my brain knew that being on the beach with my best friend and reading a book with no other responsibilities for a couple of days should have been the best thing ever.
Right.
But my body was like, that there could be a threat. Like, it's just like, I don't know about this. Like, it just, those two things were like not connected. And in looking up, like, I literally couldn't sleep one night. And so I was looking up Burnout because I'm like, what is going on with me? And it, obviously you've got like cortisol levels out of whack and different things.
Right.
But one of the things is it physically affects your brain. So like your amygdala can be enlarged because that's controls, I believe, your fight or flight.
Yeah.
And so like, it's like overactive. And so it's always looking for the threat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
we didn't even get in the water. So like, you know,
there was no threat to my person. And I think, you know, being in a situation where there absolutely was nothing to be stressed about or wound up or needing to be on about like that was very evident that things were off for me. And so I think that began to hit on you know, questions of usefulness and maybe a little like the familiar, like the Lord's favor or what's my purpose, you know, things like that that can unravel quickly into those areas if we're not careful.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I do think it's like, I think just in all of what you've just said, like it's super important that you like made it a point to say, number one, burnout can happen from good things that you enjoy, things that you're thankful for, things that the Lord has called you to do. And I don't know, like, I don't know how, if like you have thoughts on this more, but like you kind of touched on, you know, that a lot of times, like we can struggle with like burnout happening because we do fall back into dependency on ourselves or thinking it all, you know, maybe thinking it all relies on us and we have to do all those things. I know, like I would say probably the place right now with my stage of life that I can fall into that is probably more motherhood than anything of just like the constant like needs and all the things with little people. And but then I can catch myself being like, well, okay, but are you exhausted, stressed because you feel like you have to be everything and do everything all the time? Yeah, usually that's the case.
Yeah.
But do you think there's an element of it that happens just because it happens because we're human? And it's not necessarily always a relation to like our, like whether we're dependent on God, because like, yes, we can all have those moments where we do, but you know, overall, like all the things that you were doing in the spring, it's not like, I would not have looked at you and thought, oh, she's self-sufficient and not depending on God for any of these things. That's not even true in the slightest.
Yeah.
I would say if anything, you're probably having to lean into God even more with these interviews and all that. And so I don't know, there's a part of me that's like, no, kind of what you were saying that like, no, God in a way, like it's like a reminder. I'm grabbing I forgot I had a mic there. New mic,
if you hear it, hit them or slap them on a couple times. Yeah.
Thought it was my button. But just
stick that mic through that button hole.
I guess so. I don't know.
Sorry.
No. Yes. But just that we are wired to need rest. And I don't know, I just think it's an interesting thought that it's like, okay, we can be doing things that the Lord has called us to do, but still reach a point. And I think that, at least to me, is just another like layer and depth of like dependency and the Lord showing us that it's like, yes, you can be doing all the things that I've called you to do, but you do still need rest. Like, it's not like, oh, we can just go and keep going forever.
Yeah.
And just because it's what the Lord's called us to do. No, like rest is still a very important part of the equation. And it's necessary.
Yeah.
I
mean, yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you remember that last season we kicked off, I think it was the first episode of season 3. We talked about the wilderness.
Yeah.
And just like how Jesus followed the Spirit into the wilderness and was exactly where he's supposed to obviously he's Jesus.
Right.
But he's exactly where he's supposed to be. He's walking with the Spirit. And yet he finds himself starving and physically depleted.
Yeah.
And one of the things we talked about was, yes, you can be exactly where you're supposed to be within the Lord's will. Right after the Father speaks over him, this is my Son in whom I'm well pleased. He be well pleased with you, his favor rests upon you, and you can be depleted. And so I want to bring that reminder back around because I think that's very true. I think about, and we might have talked about this on that episode. I know I've talked about this before, but Elijah, he goes and does what the Lord asks him to do. He stands before the king who is not good, is not wise, does not walk with the Lord, and basically stands alone in a nation that is not following Yahweh at all, and says what the Lord tells him to say, and then flees for his life and is exhausted and is like, I want to die, and the Lord sends an angel to feed him, and then he takes a nap, and then he wakes up and feeds him again and takes a nap. And I think we all get comfortable with that first nap. I think we all go like, I did face the evil king and I do need a nap. I need a nap. I think what we all struggle with the longer we walk with the Lord is that second one.
Yeah.
I think when we're like, I already ate and I slept, it's like, that could be enough.
Yeah.
That we feel really weak to have to repeat, that. And so I think that there's something there. I love that that's repeated because you don't get to say how much you need or how, we don't really get to decide our capacity. And that was something I was already mulling over with the Lord last season of how, one of the questions I would get a lot on the interviews for the book was, what do you feel like the Lord's teaching you right now? And the answer was, I feel like he's teaching me to trust the capacity he's given me. If I don't have the capacity that day to get all the things done on my to-do list that I felt like I needed to get done, ministry wise, kids wise, everything, then like that has to be enough. And I have to rest and he's holding all these pieces because I just listed all the stuff that I had and there's no way all of that was getting seen every day. And I had to just be okay with that. I had to be okay with like all of these compartments can't be perfected, it just has to be enough, like whatever. But I think too, there's this like fine tune, of capacity that's like, oh, well, I meant like my time and maybe my finances, but I didn't mean my mental capacity, don't touch that, please, and it's just like, I think I knew it back in the spring, but I know it more deeply now. And I was sitting next to Emily Jones at an end of the year thing at his school last spring, and like was just kind of like telling her a little bit where I was at, and she was like, well, yeah, like you're obviously stressed, like, and I forget the word. I don't think she used the word, like she might have said like your body feels trauma or something like that.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a strong word. And I can be not the kindest to myself when I need things or rest. And I was like, yeah, but Emily, like they're all good things. Like I can't complain. Like it's like things we've been praying for a year, for the better part of a decade. And like immeasurably more than we could have hoped or imagined in a lot of ways. And she was like, yeah, but your body doesn't know the difference. That between the good and the bad stress, right? You know that, right? And I was like, no, no, I don't. But that was like a kind and freeing moment. And Emily, if I said it wrong, I'm sorry. But like, that was a kind and freeing moment of like, again, like marrying those, like, I feel this way physically, even though like mentally and spiritually, like I knew he had me. I was praying for his leadership and everything. And so I think sometimes we can be so frustrated with ourselves to need that second nap when we know the Lord fed us and has protected us while we slept in the wilderness.
Right.
But like he holds all of that.
Yeah.
And so, absolutely, I think that. And I think it's harder when it begins to touch the places that we have carried well.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like, you know, when you, I'm not even talking necessarily about spiritual gifts, but just like, you know, your giftings, like you are so organized, like you are, a good encourager, like you're able to steward the things that the Lord gives you really well. Like I could go on and on about like what your giftings are, you know, like as a mom, as a friend, as a worker, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I would say like one of my giftings is conversation and like, hopefully teaching.
Yes.
I'm doing that.
Absolutely.
Writing. And, but like, those are like where I feel gifted and inclined to, work and glorify the Lord and, hone those strengths. I mean, there are also things I've worked on.
Right.
And so when I feel like he begins, like when I'm going through brain fog, it's as if like I've been a runner and I can't run. Like, you know, I have an injury to my leg. Like it feels that same way to me. And that's why burnout's been such a big thing for me. So I'm like, I'm not functioning at the capacity. Like I didn't feel like I could carry on a conversation at all at the beach. And I'm like, this is not me, you know? And so that's why, you know, and I think that's so important for people to realize like, hey, why are you feeling the way you're feeling? Because it's probably touching on the gifts, the ways that you serve, on your purpose, on where you found joy and comfort. And like, okay, I'm not saying I can do these better than the next person, but like, I feel like in my world, I can do these things well. And so when you feel like there's been an injury, if we were to look at someone who is an athlete and they have an injury, we would understand why that would be hard season. And so like, it's very similar. And so I feel like in wrestling with that, you know, you hit on something earlier, you know, is this something that the Lord uses? Like, absolutely. Because not only did I have to lean on him in new ways, but also like in seasons before where I was leaning on being self-sufficient, that was teaching me to let go of my pride. It was teaching me humility. This is teaching me a deeper level of trust. Because any good thing that I have, any helpful thing, any gift, any strength that I have, all comes from him. And I have to never marry my worth and purpose and his favor to any of those things, because eventually they all will be gone. And I still have to have my faith, and I still have to have my faithfulness. And so whatever I'm able to do. And one of the things I actually journaled about, this is my prayer journal, and I journaled about, you know, wanting to figure out, I need to like externally process. And so wanting to figure out where I'm at, but also just like pouring that out to the Lord. And at the end of that, my journal entry ended with, I would like nothing more than to ask for my capacity back, but I won't. I'll ask for your closeness, and I just have your presence. Because I think when you feel like the areas that you serve the Lord, I don't want to say are under attack. I don't feel like it was spiritual warfare. That's not necessarily where that can happen. So I'm not downplaying that, but that was not necessarily my experience. But when you feel like they're under fire, you know, or under question, then you can feel disconnected from the Lord. Not because you are, because I knew I wasn't disconnected. It's just that like our connection was changing. And that feels uncomfortable. Because when you're, when you used to be a striver and you used to be a performer, you know, and now you feel like you can't even in your strength be faithful in the areas that
Right.
you've, wanted to be faithful in before. It can feel like a loss of a lot of normalcy and the way that you relate to him. I mean, like when your mental capacity shifts, it's like hard to even read your Bible and feel the same connection,
Yeah.
But I'll say this, and I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add, but when you think about burnout and you think about a fire, there are bad fires for sure. But there are also fires that can be wide sweeping that burn away the vegetation that isn't really needed.
Yeah.
And actually creates ways for the important vegetation and for new things to grow. It actually helps provide nutrients for those things to grow. And I do feel like that's where my burnout is.
Yeah.
Because being able to say, I don't feel like I can do this. I don't feel like I can do that well. I don't feel like myself in this area. And yet I'm going to trust you and I'm going to follow you. And until you take every platform that I have away from me, I'm going to glorify you. That brings freedom and it brings peace and it brings new things that you really can't experience outside of that. And I think too, that when we focus so much on our capacity, and we touched on this at the beginning of the episode of, I don't want it to be so worldly. And I love to talk about like, well, this is what's happening in the brain and this is whatever. And I think those things are so important because it can give an answer to where you're at, or what you've experienced. But the bottom line is, if I look at my capacity all day and if I could watch it on a monitor, go up and down in seasons, that would be to be completely neglecting to look at his capacity. Because Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. And he does not change. And he can do immeasurably more than we could ask or think. And it is to him be the glory. And so all of those things bring me immense peace and joy to do his work, regardless of if I have to think about what was this thing, sometimes. And so that's where Hallie Dye's been. But that's who I want to look to as him and everything.
No, I love that. And I mean, I think everybody, again, like I love that you just kind of painted a picture of like, it doesn't necessarily matter what your gifts are, because we all have different things. But when we feel like those things we're not capable of doing that in whatever season. And I mean, like I have experienced that for the past several weeks of just not feeling well and not whatever. And that bomb. Am I dropping that bomb?
What's going on with you?
But like, no, I don't know how to say what I'm going to say without saying this. So I guess I'll say it to the world. So yeah, I'm pregnant in the first trimester, almost, praise God, almost out of the first trimester. But this has been a struggle. So number 3 is going to take me out already. And, like everything that you were saying, I was like, goodness gracious. Like, yeah, that's been the past like 10 weeks for me of like, I mean, doing well to stand on my 2 feet and take care of my children barely. Like, I thank God for Colin's taking over all the household things for a while until the Lord brought me Unisom. I'm like, thank you for this. This is a wonderful gift. Otherwise we may not be sitting here right now. But it's been a struggle. And I feel like maybe I was talking to Erica about this, honestly, because she was like, well, Lindsay, like I was getting to the point, this is before, medical intervention, but, I was just getting to the point where I was like, I just feel terrible every day, all day, and it's not fun. And there are people who have it way worse than I have, but like, this has been a new experience for me. My other 2 were very easy pregnancies, but like, it's been hard because I mean, like you said, when you're organized and like it's back to like in the midst of back to school time, and it's like there's so many things that like I wanted to be doing differently, but like literally could not, like physically could not like do. And and like I think Erica asked me this question. She was like, I mean, do you think like have you thought through like why are you feeling so down about that? And I was like, I would be lying if I said like, sure, to some extent, there's probably not some worth tied into that. When you feel like you can't do the things that you like normally do and the things you're good at and what you enjoy, like yeah, we all probably struggle with that to a degree. But I was like, honestly, it's like, I don't know that that's really it. It's just like, I'm just tired of not feeling well and not feeling like I can do the things that I want to do that the Lord has like gifted me with, and even just attend to my family, you know, take care of my family, even just to that extent, like it's, and so I just like, I can like all that you were saying with like how that feels differently for each person resonated just even in this past couple of months for me of, I don't know that I would say that's an example of burnout necessarily, but like we've all experienced for various reasons, points of exhaustion or just not being able to function at our normal capacity for any number of reasons. And it does just like hit hard, and it kind of makes you stop and think. And even what you were saying about like just not feeling like you can even, or just your connection with the Lord even feeling different. Cause I mean, there were many days that I feel like the only thing that I could say to the Lord was like, I'm tired and I don't feel good and I don't really know what else to say right now. You know, like please help me. And so, you know, that feeling of disconnect, just because for whatever reason, like life is not functioning like it normally does, or something's out of the ordinary and your capacity is not what it normally is, you know, and it is, I don't know, that's just hard. Like it, but I mean, I'm with you in that you can have a perspective where you look at it and you're like, okay, you can be thankful for that. And the realization that even on those times, whenever our capacity is not what we want it to be or what it normally is or what we think it should be, that ultimately we can rest in knowing that like, it's not dependent on my capacity. Today is not dependent on my capacity. And like my kids are fine, you know, like, and as a mom, like it's good in those times, I think, to see they're okay. They got what they like this. I don't know how. Yeah. Colin Stagg probably. That's how. Like still got what they needed. They've been fed. It wasn't by me. Hasn't been by me because, you know, food is the worst or was the worst. I'm okay now. But, you know, it just so like just things like that of just that reminder of it's okay. It's okay. You know, and it doesn't feel great, I don't think, in those times, but just to be able to look and see like what needed to get done got done. And the Lord is the one who is responsible for your capacity, and it's not ours to determine. And I don't know, it's just hard. It's hard.
It is. And I think we like tend to want to like, sometimes the only control we can find in a season that feels off for whatever reason, is let me analyze what I need to learn here. You know, and it's like that feels like control to us, I think, sometimes of like, okay, you must have me here for a reason. Yeah. It's like, you're not in the state for it. Like, just take a nap. You don't have to, like, figure out the way,
like encrypted message.
It's okay not to crack the code. And I'm not saying don't look for those sort of things, but for me, like, I think burnout's the first time I couldn't do that. Like, I couldn't overanalyze where I was at. I literally just had to, like, he made me lie down. In pasture. And it was just like, I couldn't. But also in the slow and in the, I can't work on another book if I want to right now. I can't think about that speaking engagement and what, you know, like I've tried, nothing's coming to me. It's not, you know, whatever. Like he's refined me of like, are you letting your reasonableness be made known to everyone when you have conflicts? Like, that's great that you're working in ministry. Are you loving a friend when it's hard and they wrong you? You know, that's great that you're speaking at this thing. are you speaking with more patience with your kid when you feel exhausted? I mean, there's all these other things, and the Perrys talk about this a lot on their podcast, but there are seasons that look fruitful in the things that we're doing for the Lord, whether we're leading a Bible study or we're launching a book or we're pouring into a friend in discipleship or whatever that looks like. But there's also the fruit of spirit that's love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, and self-control. Like, you can't manufacture those, and we've talked about that before. But also in those slow seasons, sometimes like the Lord is working out those fruits of the spirit in you that, can be harder to work through because you are more exhausted and you are just within your walls. And, I just think there's been really kind things in that too, in those regards, of it might not have been a book that you read that was like, that was the thing I needed to lay down, but there might be this refinement of like learning to run with endurance. In that. And so, but okay, I feel like I talked about how like there was that season was necessary, but also it brought about necessary change for us. Because we really began to say, like, when you don't have capacity for everything, you have to get intentional about the things you do, or things are like, these things must be done, or this actually isn't working. With where we're at now. And the capacity we have now. And so, it's been a season of really looking at that and praying about it. And so I know that's something that has coincided with things y'all have been praying about and thinking about. And so I would love to ask, like, for you, like, what led to really looking at intentionality, and like, why that word? Like, why has that been like the thing that was on your heart?
I mean, honestly, I don't know that it's anything just like super transformational or like this epiphany, but really, I just feel like in the past, just really the summer months and just even the past couple of months, it's become, just a super important thing that we've talked a lot about with being intentional. Honestly, a lot with like in parenting, like that's been one of our biggest topics right now. Like that, I think Colin and I talk about a lot is just realizing, I mean, Lillian just turned 5. And so like, we've seen a few shifts in her just a little bit, like just personality behavior, just typical like new 5-year-old things. And I don't know, like, I just like somewhere along the way, like it just kind of hit me that it was like, hey, okay, we like, you're intentional with toddlers and whatever, but like there's a shift happening where it's like, no, we like some of that, like more in-depth, like discipling and just some things. I mean, because we've had our first like encounters with like telling a lie and like, just some of that kind of stuff where it's like, wait, okay, something has shifted here. So like, we've got to be ready to shift with it. And so honestly, that's probably like what has sparked that the most. Just in our world of just with parenting is like, okay, like how can we be intentional with, how we parent, how we disciple or discipline or, just all of the things. But I think you can't think about intentionality in any specific area of your life without first like focusing on your intentionality with God. And I mean, I do feel like to some extent, like I said, over the past few months, like that has been hard, for me. Only just like intentionality for me has kind of just been like, hey God, I can't sit on the swing with you today because I feel terrible and it's 100 degrees outside. And like, but I know I need you. And I know that where I'm at's like, I'm not functioning in my normal capacity and I don't know how XYZ is going to get done, but like, I do know I need you for those things to get done. And so I think intentionality, I love what you said about burnout and just like, you can get so focused on the diagnosis and like the figuring out and the label. And, I don't even know where I read this, but it was just kind of like this commentary on anything, but it was talking about intentionality. And it was like, we even have to be careful with the idea of intentionality to an extent, in that we can turn anything into an idol. A goal can be an idol. The focus being on let's see how intentional we can be all these things. But if you forget why, it's just another idol, or it's just another thing that you're serving. And it's like, no, the why behind being intentional is because, for me anyways, the question that I ask is, am I living purposefully for God? Like, that is the why is Jesus. I think the why is because if we believe who God is, who he says he is, then like we should be living intentionally.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a couple of verses in Ephesians that to me kind of point to that. Chapter 5, 15 and 16 that says, look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of the time, because the days are evil. And for me, the first part of that, look carefully then how you walk, is it, that to me is, are you asking why? Are you seeking the Lord? Are you depending on the Lord with all things? And so
I put those same verses down. Like, that's what I was opening to while you were
kind of like we showed up in our same stripes today. Great minds.
Somebody walked in and we're both wearing striped sweaters. And I was like, you know what?
This is where we are.
We can't be helped.
We can't. I mean, we haven't even spent the summer together, like we've been apart, and yet here we are, matching anyways. I've been laying on a couch.
Well, and like, to further that, therefore do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is.
Yes.
And like, I think about that and how, like, what do you mean by don't be foolish? And he does go on to, it goes on to say, do not get drunk with wine, for that is debauchery, but be filled with the Spirit. And all of that is pointing out intentionality. Like, I could say from personal experience, you could not be drunk with wine and still not be Spirit.
Yes.
It's like, those two things. It doesn't mean when you are sober, you're going to,
right.
That takes intentionality that you need sobriety for,
Right.
And so, and I've said this before, like, you can be drunk on anything. You know what I mean? Like, you can be consumed with, trying to keep up with, what everybody else is doing with their kids, or whatever. And for me, that therefore do not be foolish. It's like, okay, well, what's the opposite of that? It's being wise. How do I be wise? Well, to understand what the Lord's will is. And so to be careful, to make the best use of time. Like, I think we got to the spring, and obviously there was a lot that we don't have, in the fall, but at the same time, could we say going into the fall that, these things on our list were making the best use of our time?
Yeah.
We truly understood the Lord's will, not just for every person, but for our family. And I began to look at, so a huge part for me of intentionality is to look at the Lord's word and say, am I being more shaped by God's word, or am I being more shaped by culture?
Yeah.
And that's a hard question to ask. It's a question we start asking in middle school.
Yeah.
And that can look at a lot of different ways. But as an adult in their 30s with 3 kids, for me, what it looks like is, okay, we've got to do school this way. We've got to do sports this way. We've got to do church this way. Because that's how it's done. Now, Lord, what would you like to do in our lives? That's not seeking his will first. That's not making the best use of your time. And so it's really asking, and this is a question Andrew and I are asking right now, and I don't have an answer for this today, but like, what is our family mission, or what's our family goal? Like, for this season, what does that look like? And I use that phrase because a friend of mine, we just went and visited some friends in Nashville, and they have a family mission that they can resort back to when they're trying to give a yes or no to something. Does this fit? Okay. No, it doesn't, or actually, yes, it does, even though we're going to have to take on extra, or whatever that looks like. And, I feel like for us, one of the things that was really throwing a wrench in that for us was the kids' school.
Yeah.
And we were enrolled in a wonderful school. We had wonderful teachers.
Yeah.
We honestly had a good year, but we had a fast, furious, no downtime year.
Mm-hmm.
And we just knew we couldn't do that again. And you can take the house building away and you can take the book launch away, but we could not gain back the hours from 3 to 7.
Yeah.
As a family. I mean, it was, if you do one activity and you've got homework, it's gone, you know?
Yeah.
And so we just felt like for us, you know, and I feel like we prayed for so long, like, what do you want us to do?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want us to do? What's your will? What do you want us to do? And then I began to pray, give us the right conviction.
Yeah.
Give us a right conviction here, because if you can give us the right conviction, we can't miss, because when you have the right convictions, you will be intentional to do those.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and like it's being governed by his heart.
Yeah.
And less about rules, I guess, to me.
And it's being willing to even ask the question, because like you said, you know, it's, are you being shaped by the word, or are you being shaped by culture? And there's no, like, it's one or the other. If you're not being shaped by the word, then you are being shaped by the culture. So if you're passive, you're going to be shaped by something.
Right.
And so I think intentionality takes, no, like, I'm choosing to be shaped by the word and by the Lord, by the Spirit. And I think, like, one of the first steps is, are you even asking the right questions? Like, are you even asking those questions? Mm-hmm. Are you even asking why?
You want to know?
Do you want to know? Yeah, because I think a lot of Christians, like, if we've got real honest, no, like you said, we're okay. Okay, Lord, like this, and this. Now what?
Yeah.
Do you
this
want?
Access.
Yeah.
What do you want to do with that?
Yeah, but not with every detail and every area of life. We're not typically willing to ask that question. We don't want the answer, because we don't want to know what that answer is going to be if it doesn't look like what culture says or what we think it should look like. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, to me, I think that's the biggest, like, underlying theme of, like, our conversations right now is, okay, if this is how we're handling this, why? Like, is it just because that's what we think we're supposed to do? Or is that really what is needed here? You know, and honestly, it's getting, like, so down to it, to go back to, like, I think I read this little statement, and it's, intentionality is simple, but it's not easy. And it's simple because what it boils down to is, Lord, what is it that you would have for me here? Mm-hmm. What is the right conviction about XYZ, whatever that is? And then being willing to follow through with that. But so it's simple in that you ask the Lord and you depend on the Lord, but it's not easy. Right. Because a lot of times you're going to probably be led, more times than not, to something that's not what culture is doing. Right. Not what the norm is, you know?
Well, and, like, I think it's just so important to constantly be asking it too, because, like, of course we know we need to be in the world, you know, and right. It's like, we need to be light in the darkness.
Absolutely.
We need to be making disciples of all nations. And so, like, it's not to say that doesn't shift, and right. or that it's the same for each person. I mean, in another season, you know, for us, it looks like right now, had we done traditional schooling, we as a family would not have had capacity to focus on the things the Lord's given us the conviction to focus on this year. Next year, I don't know.
Yeah.
Does that mean somebody else's answer was wrong because they had the capacity to do traditional school and put it right? No, of course not.
No.
You know, and so it's just like, again, going back to, like, what is the conviction? What's the capacity? Putting all this together. Because honestly, like, last fall, Hallie would not have enjoyed homeschool as much, because honestly, like, burnout led me to enjoy like hate to say the simpler things, but like a slower pace and the simpler things. I mean, and I don't know, had he not burned away a lot of things and a lot of striving, would I be as content in this season and have the desire to homeschool? I don't have a desire to homeschool 6 months ago.
Right.
But we are living it.
Yeah.
And we're thriving. And it's that's another topic for another day.
Yeah.
But it's working. Like, not only has he shown us what it is that we need to do right now, but he's protected our feelings from feeling left out or feeling like, should we have done this? Like, he's just been so gracious in all of that.
Yeah.
And like, he really is faithful to carry you through whatever he leads you to do, even if you stand alone or even if you have to be countercultural, And so I just say that to encourage whatever that looks like for someone.
I was going to say, I mean,
like, taking a different job. You just making a move that you didn't think you could make, like, he really is so gracious in that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, yeah. One more verse that I had put down, because this is the verse that really the Saltworks is based on a lot, but it says, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. And I think sometimes, like, we look at that and we say, yes, like, we need to cast aside sin, and things like that. But like, every weight is separated from that. So that's distractions. It's extra things that are pulling you away, that are taking the capacity that really needs to go towards Christ and towards leading others to him. And so to look at that with intentionality and say, Lord, like, if we could go into this week all praying, what are the weights that are weighing me down?
Yeah.
And I'm not excited about praying that, to be honest.
Yeah.
But like, what if we did?
Yeah.
What if we did that this week? And just prayed about that. And then to run with endurance. When you think about endurance, it's like, you can think like, okay, you need conditioning. Yes. You need strength training. Yes. Like, you need to practice. Yes. But like, you need mental fortification. You need belief that you can cross the finish line. Talk about running a race. And like, you put those long distance runners, and I can't say from experience, but I mean, there gets to be a point where like your body's shutting down.
Oh yeah.
And it's just, you start out this way, but then at some point it's like, even if my heart's not in it right now, even if my head is questioning if I can do this, even if I don't feel like I'm running at this portion of the race at the capacity that I would like to do, or ran the first half, I'm still going to keep running towards the finish line, and like, how do we do that? How do we run the endurance race that is set before us? By looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. And so it's like, fix your eyes on him.
Yeah.
He's the founder and the perfecter. Yeah. We won't be perfecting it. He will.
Yeah.
And so, well,
all right.
Happy season 4.
Happy season 4. Everyone's got homework this week.
That's right. Ooh.
Ask that question.
I really regret that homework assignment. But would love to hear, though.
I know.
Some people are going to start confessing some stuff.
What are those weights? Need to open up a hotline. Saltworks hotline. What weights are you letting go of this week?
I had an interview. It was a live radio interview. And he took callers.
I remember that. Yeah.
And let me tell you, like, I was already beginning the effects of burnout, and I don't even really remember got blacked out for a minute, but I could call her. This lady, I mean, just like shared her heart. And like, I don't know if I said anything. I just cried with her on the phone.
Yeah. I mean,
So yeah, and I was like, well, yeah,
that's where we are.
Yeah. So
maybe that's all she needed.
Well, that's all I had. So, I don't know if I'm fit for live callers. We could give it a go. I might just try with you. Well, thanks, Lindsay.
Yeah.
And we'll be back next week together.
Next week. Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. We will. First one of those.
Can't wait.
Can't wait.
Well, thank y'all so much for listening in this week to the Saltworks, and we will see you next week.
This is my story. This is your story.